Let's talk about something that we haven't talked about, and that's the MeToo movement. What is the MeToo movement all about? And specifically, I don't mean to talk about the movement itself, but the fundamental question should be, why are these famous men taking advantage of women to the extent that they obviously are? Let me give you my thoughts on that. To understand why that is, I think you have to go all the way back to the creation of man. Whatever you want to think about that, and however you want to perceive of God. I'm going to use the term God here loosely because we don't know who or what God is or was, but I'm going to use the term anyway to mean the force out there that created life on earth, whatever that is. I call it God. Okay. And here's the way I see this whole thing unfolding. The human being, I think, started off as just another species of animal. And maybe it's possible that for whatever reason, God looked around and saw this species of higher level bipedal mammal and said, I'm going to give that species of animal a special gift. And so it's almost like God waved the magic wand and bing, bestowed upon that individual species of animal a special element of divinity. And at that point then, the human species wound up being a dual personality. We have a tendency to admire duality in a human being. Think of Jesus. I think it's natural for us to, particularly those who admire Jesus, to bestow upon him a sense of duality, meaning he was both human and divine. And this is not unusual. It's happened throughout history. You could look at other, well-known prophets like Muhammad or like Buddha, or the pantheon of Greek and Roman and Norse gods. It's what we've always done. We love to bestow upon the individuals that we admire a sense of duality. We love to think of them as both human and divine. We've always done it, and that's just a part of how we roll. Well, I think that there's a reason why we do that. And that's because that same duality of being human and divine is instilled in every single one of us. It's what makes us uniquely human. That waving of the magic wand bestowed in us an element of divinity that is not in any other species of animal. That's what makes human beings unique. Now, let's talk about that duality. If we didn't have that spark of divinity in us, we would be just like another animal species. We would be like the deer in the woods, or the raccoons, or the cats and the dogs, and so on. And let's think about it. How do they operate? Most species of higher level mammals only have the animal instinct to go on. They don't have this divine instinct. So they don't have the duality. They only have the animal instinct, which is why they have their mating rituals and so on. And that's just how they operate. If we didn't have the divine thing, we would operate the same way. What that divine element does is give us the ability to use common sense, rationale, and reason and to consider the common good. In other words, that spark of divinity that's in us, in every one of us, is the counterweight. It's a counterbalance to the animal instinct that is also in us. That's the duality. We have both the animal instinct and the divine instinct, and they are a counterweight to one another. It's the divine instinct that reins in the animal instinct. And that's what makes human beings unique in the universe, or certainly in our world of animal species. Now, let's get back to MeToo. What's going on with these powerful men who insist on taking advantage of women? Well, what's happening is the animal instinct is outweighing the divine instinct. I think sometimes that happens. Sometimes, as this counterbalance of one against the other happens, sometimes one side wins out. You can think of it as like the good angel and the bad angel sitting on your shoulders. Unfortunately, there are times when the bad angel wins. Well, that's what's happening here. This is the alpha male syndrome. These males have instinct, they have hormones, they have a genetic makeup that gives them the instinctive proclivity toward seeking to be the alpha male, to compete against all the other males, to be the top dog, be the king of the hill. And that same instinct that compels them to seek the top of the hill, to be the alpha dog, is the same instinct that gives them the tendency to use that power for their own sexual gratification. So if you look at let's say a famous senator, since there's one in the news right now, the same instinct that led that man to make a career out of trying to become a top politician and to be the most successful dog on the hill, that same instinct leads that individual to use that power to his own benefit. And that includes to his own sexual gratification. It's instinctive in the human being. It's instinctive. It's the animal instinct in us. And those men who have that instinct, they tend to operate just like the buck out in the woods who seeks to be the alpha male. He has his antlers on and he fights off all the other males to get to be the top one. And once he gets to be the top one, he gets all the does he wants. That's the way it works with animal instinct. Now, with human beings, we're supposed to have this other side of us, the other half of the duality that reins in the animal instinct. And for most of us, it does. That's why we have laws. That's why human beings have this natural tendency to create a legal system and social norms and guidelines of acceptability. That's why we create those things, is to make sure that the animal instinct is kept at bay and doesn't prevail. Sometimes, though, the bad angel on the shoulder wins out over the good angel. And that's what's happening when you see these powerful men who spend their lifetime and make a career out of becoming powerful, turning around then and using that power to their own sexual gratification. In those cases, the divine spark in there didn't work. Most of the time it works. But in these cases, animal instinct wins out. And so that's what I think we're seeing. And you could argue all day long as to what to do about it. But that's why these powerful men are doing what they're doing. Now, do the women have an instinct? Yes. Some of these girls, some of these women have a natural instinct to seek out one of these powerful alpha males. But that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that at another time. So that's my thought on the why of Me Too.